President Donald Trump has been removed from the primary ballot of yet another state, this time in Illinois, after a judge ruled he could be kicked off the ballot over his alleged role in the January 6th insurrection. So how will voters react to this in November? Let's bring in our political panel. David Avella is the chairman of GOPAC, and Jonathan Cott is former senior advisor to Senator Joe Manchin. Thanks to both of you for being here. Jonathan, I want to start with you. Broadly, isn't this kind of not well thought out? Democrats think that their best chance at winning in November, after all, is if Trump is on the ballot.
Sure. I think this is what's happening is some states, some judges in states have decided they're going to take up this case and have decided he did, partake in an insurrection as somebody who was stuck in my office on January 6th because people were storming the Capitol and we didn't know whether they were going to knock down our doors and kill us. I do think he has some legal responsibility for it. And if it takes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court decides, then Illinois will have him on the ballot. But I do think it's the rights of each state and the judiciary in those states to go through with that process.
All right. So you were there. You obviously went through it. It was probably a traumatizing event for you. I'm sure it was a horrible thing. It shouldn't have happened. It should never happen again. But for a judge to unilaterally decide that a person who has not been even charged with insurrection, let alone convicted of it, in her mind, is guilty of insurrection, and she makes a unilateral decision that he's run afoul of the 14th Amendment and he needs to be kicked off the ballot, would not seem to be very democratic.
Well, and think about the fact that the Supreme Court has already said they're going to take up this case because of Colorado. And so, as we've talked about on this show before, it needs to be 9-0, whichever way they're going to go. It needs to be 9-0 to make this very clear, the direction. There's a longer-term impact to this issue, though, and that is now it gives the Trump campaign another issue to go run on, which is we need a Republican president with a Republican Senate to put more folks on the Supreme Court who are going to be constitutionalists, and we need to fill the federal courts with men and women who are constitutionalists. So once again, we're going to be battling over who's going to nominate folks to the Supreme Court and to the judgeships if this Trump campaign is smart.
Haven't we been seeing, though, a lot of, Democrats, especially elected Democrats, distance themselves from this effort? I mean, they're not saying it outright, but it benefits them if Trump stays on the ballot because they, again, see this as their best strategy in November. Where do you, in your circles, hear the discussion landing?
Nobody talks about these cases in Colorado, Illinois, or Maine. Democrats want to run against Donald Trump. They love the idea of the one-on-one comparison between Joe Biden's record and the insanity of the Trump administration, and then the criminal activity of the last 4 years. I mean, a lot of people say we don't want a rematch between the two of them. Democrats would love a rematch because it's not the same two people. Joe Biden has had 3 of the most successful years of any Democratic president or any president legislatively, and Donald Trump has been spewing conspiracy theories and going in and out of court and selling gold sneakers. So we're very happy for that. I'd love Donald Trump to be on the ballot, especially for the down ballot races. He's toxic for all of those, and we've seen it in 2018, 2020, 2022, 2023.
Well, the Cook County Circuit Judge, Tracy Porter, either didn't get or didn't read that memo.
She's probably not on our text chain. We'll add her.
So Jonathan Turley, the learned law professor and Fox News contributor, was of the same mind of you, David, saying, wait a second, this is before the Supreme Court. What does Judge Porter even do? Listen here.
What is really odd about this Illinois decision is that most judges are waiting to hear from the Supreme Court. The expectation of many of us is that the court is going to reject this claim, is going to reject this theory. And yet this judge decided to break from the other judges and say, no, I want to go on record. It's like paddling furiously to get on the Titanic before it sinks, just so you can be on the list of those lost at sea.
He has got away with words.
He does. It's also interesting that we don't see Democrats saying that Bob Menendez should be taken off the ballot, in that he also is now up for a case where he has allegedly helped a foreign government. Gosh, what better example of someone trying to undo the U.S. than to work for a foreign government, right? But yet we're going to allow no Democrats calling for him to be taken off the ballot.
No.
Well, regardless, it only helps if a decision is far-reaching and doesn't leave any room for ambiguity. I don't think anyone wants any question marks leading into an election.
No, I think I agree with David. It should be a 9-0 decision for America, and I do think states should just wait to see what the Supreme Court decides. Look, the Supreme Court decides that he can be kicked off the ballot. There's going to be a lot of states that kick him off the ballot. We can wait till then.
All right, maybe you should add Judge Porter to your.
I will do that. I will do that tonight.